The outpouring of emotion was immediate and intense. People came right to the Supreme Court building to mourn together. They left flowers and candles and messages of what this civil rights icon meant to them. Our Tom Dempsey continues our live coverage there. And Tom, you've seen so much, you've heard so much, so many moving tributes tonight.
Well, Leslie, Ruth Bader Ginsburg obviously served as an icon to so many people. And at this hour, you can see some of the hundreds of people that are gathered outside the Supreme Court building. Some people left flowers, others left candles, all as a way to honor her legacy.
We're all here to honor her, and it's a very solemn, kind of quiet but grateful atmosphere here tonight.
Outside the Supreme Court building on Friday night, people gathered to remember the life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You don't hear yelling, you don't hear screaming. You hear people just paying honor and tribute to somebody.
A crowd of hundreds coming together, some lighting candles in her honor, with the Supreme Court justice meaning so much to so many.
She was such a voice for women, myself included. I feel so much of what I have today in this country is because of her and the ideals she fought for.
Kendra Lammy brought her own children, who looked on from the Supreme Court stairs as the gathering grew in size.
It's such a historical day that in 10 years from now, when we live so close to the Capitol and so close to the Supreme Court, we felt like we're going to want them to know that they were here.
I picked some flowers. We don't have a lot, just picked them from our garden.
Others held back tears and hugged loved ones, with the death of Ginsburg bringing a big loss.
It represented strength for me. I think I had like a woman role model in the Supreme Court that represented all I stood for.
An icon leaving behind a lasting legacy, with Friday night bringing shock and heartbreak for many.
It's a shock, and we're really sad. It's a huge loss for the country, especially in this political climate. It's very sad.
Now, Leslie, again, all sorts of emotions out here at the Supreme Court building. On top of that heartbreak that people detailed to us, some expressed just how concerned, some saying how scared they were really about who could potentially replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg, with that being a very big topic. But above all else, the main focus tonight, with so many people still out here, hundreds of people out here, all wanting to honor the legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Live outside the Supreme Court building, I'm Tom Dempsey, WUSA 9.
She was certainly a champion and a pioneer. Tom, thank you. Hometown D.C. is honoring the late Justice, too. Here is a vigil at a mural painted of Ginsburg at 15th and U Streets in Northwest. Her impact needs no explanation. It is obvious in the emotion we're seeing tonight. And maybe more than anyone else, RBG's impact was felt by women. She was a trailblazer in the truest sense of the word. Evan Kosloff has a look at her fight for women's equality.
The legal community is grieving. A fierce advocate for women's rights has now passed. And now those that knew her and knew of her are reflecting on her legacy.
Well, Justice Ginsburg really changed the world for women in America and for men too.
Emily Martin from the National Women's Law Center says the late Justice was a trailblazer.
So many of us who do work that's in some way related to women and the law have really been personally inspired by her as a hero.
Ginsburg was, of course, an advocate on the court, but her support for women's rights started long before then. Before she took her seat, she co-founded the Legal Rights Project. She argued in front of the court on 6 gender discrimination cases. The ACLU writing, quote, "She leaves a country changed because of her life's work."
You know, her loss is heartbreaking to us.
William M. Traynor, the dean of Georgetown University's Law Center, remembers the frequent visits by Justice Ginsburg to speak to the next generation.
One of the high points of my life was every year watching the faces of our students as she walked into the auditorium and they looked up and they saw their hero.
One of the finest things that ever happened to me was that she swore me in to become a council member.
DC Councilmember Mary Che, also a lawyer, reflected on Justice Ginsburg's passing.
She opened those doors wide, and the legal doctrine changed at literally her command.
A legal icon and a fierce advocate for women's rights. This is Evan Kosloff.
And Justice Ginsburg also played a pivotal role in the fight for gay rights in this country. She ruled with the 5-4 majority in the 2015 landmark marriage equality case. Mike Valerio just spoke with the lead plaintiff from that historic decision, legalizing gay marriage across the nation. And Mike, what did he tell you?
Well, Leslie, good evening. You know, he said if Justice Ginsburg was not on the court in 2015, it's possible from his point of view the decision could have gone the other way. And tonight he said he is devastated, but also, as Tom Dempsey alluded to a couple minutes ago, he is terrified about the direction the court could now head.
Jim Obergefell, lead plaintiff of Obergefell versus Hodges, changed the course of history. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was part of the narrow majority ruling in his favor, legalizing gay marriage in America. Tonight,
I'm devastated to hear this news. You know, we have certainly looked to Ruth Bader Ginsburg as, you know, an amazing justice, someone who believed in and ruled in favor of equality for the LGBTQ plus community.
Obergefell said RBG changed his life and the lives of millions. He says a moment from his case's oral argument is indelible.
The argument came up that the fight for marriage equality was, in essence, we were attempting to redefine marriage that had meant the same thing for hundreds of years, for millennia. And I will never forget Ruth Bader Ginsburg jumping in the middle of that argument to say, I am sorry, we already have redefined marriage because women are no longer the property of their husbands.
Then there's the future of the court. Obergefell says he's terrified.
When Trump released his short list of potential nominees, the fact that Tom Cotton and Ted Cruz are on his list, that terrified me to begin with. And now knowing that those two are potential replacements for Ruth Bader Ginsburg terrifies me even more.
Okay, so Leslie, Obergefell added at the end of our phone call a few hours ago that back in 2016, he tried to rally apathetic Democratic voters to avoid this exact situation. And Leslie, at the end of the call, he said that he is going to use that feeling, that fear, to motivate himself and others between now and November 3rd. Leslie?
And it looks like it's very close to toppling. Here we go, Leslie.
Just watched as protesters have pulled down a statue that has been in this city.
The Albert Pike statue has come down in D.C. on Juneteenth. We see protesters rushing towards this. I'm going to try and get up here. A lot of smoke here in the area as we take a look at get a closer look at all this, Leslie. Many protesters out here, many running towards the action, as we can see. The protesters chanting as we see this.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
This is a powerful moment in a day that has been filled with them here in the nation's capital and around the country. The statue of Albert Pike, a Confederate general, a figure who represented an effort to preserve white supremacy and the enslavement of millions of people, including many right here in the District of Columbia. This was the only statue devoted to a Confederate general in the District of Columbia. Now it is no more. Let's listen in for just a moment.
No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No racist, police. No racist, police. No justice, no peace. Let's go.
This has been happening across the country. The district has joined other cities where protesters have said, we're not waiting any longer for these symbols of division and hatred to come down. We're going to do it ourselves. Here's an update on what we know about the investigation. The shooting happened around 9:30 last night near 57th Street and Southern Avenue in Southeast. Police say Carmelo was in the car with his father and another child, and at least one person fired multiple shots at their car. Police are looking for a Mazda SUV with dark tints. D.C. Police Chief Peter Newsham spoke with our Bruce Johnson tonight on the Q&A. He said he thinks at least 3 weapons were fired at that car last night. He also explained why officers believe this was a targeted attack.
This is a theory that we're working right now. So either someone in the vehicle or the vehicle itself was targeted. That's what it appears. And the reason we suggest that is because the vehicle was struck so many times. It does not appear to be random in nature. And I just want folks to know that's a theory that we're working. Whenever you're doing these investigations, you have to go where the evidence and the information takes you.
DC police are getting some help in this investigation from the FBI and the ATF. Mike Valerio continues our coverage with a closer look at the role those ATF agents are playing on DC streets.
When children, especially somebody as young as 1 year old, loses their life to gun violence, it should make everybody take a moment and pause.
He's a D.C. father and also leads the ATF in the district. As Sean Benedict told us over the phone tonight, this case is personal, and bullets from the crime scene are already being processed by the ATF. The turnaround time?
It's usually within 24 to 48 hours.
Benedict told us the ATF will check to see if the bullets are already in its database. A match could reveal if the weapons used last night were ever used in a crime before.
Once that information comes in, we'll look at where the gun was used in other crimes to investigate a pattern or develop suspects.
Even if there is no match, Benedict said his agents will still offer forensic know-how.
In a case like this, as the ballistics and forensic information become available and get analyzed, and our intelligence center, working alongside MPD, reviews that information, we'll start to investigate vigorously.
As for his message to whoever opened fire,
I just ask those folks that have to settle a dispute or a fight or something's going on where they need to have a weapon to stop.
Mike Valerio, WUSA 9.
When we talk about gun violence, we often reference numbers, but I want to put some faces and names to those statistics. These are just some of the young people murdered in our city this year. Davon McNeil, Malachi Lukes, Christopher Brown, Kareem Palmer. And now, another face. This one is Washington's youngest homicide victim. Little Mello had just enough time to amass a crown of glory and had the brightest light in his eyes. But we'll never know what brilliance might have come from his life. What we do know is how we feel, so let's get real about that. It is awful, and it is heartbreaking, and we are grieving at this intersection of an epidemic of gun violence and a pandemic called coronavirus. And the first involves killers we can see. The other moves silently, stealthily, snatching souls in our humanity. While keeping our distance from others will save lives, we cannot keep our distance from this. There should not be another Mello. Another family shouldn't have to endure the kind of loss that is incomprehensible. So tonight, join me in saying not again and meaning it this time. We have to work together on this. We are all interconnected. This epidemic of gun violence and this pandemic remind us of that every day. So for now, to the people who know where these killers are, don't let them get away with this. You can stay anonymous. If money motivates you, so be it. There's $60,000 out there to get somebody to talk. Call 202-727-9099 or text what you know to 50411.